Well, greetings. It's the afternoon of December the 4th, which is a Friday, and it's a joy to be able to come to you from my office as we continue our chronological study of the Scriptures together this year. We are finishing up today 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 11, 12, and 13. I've titled today's devotional, He that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. Now, a little bit of background. As we come to the close of 2 Corinthians 10, we find in chapter 10 that Paul begins mounting a defense of his ministry and his calling and his authority as an apostle and minister of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm going to limit this study to 2 Corinthians 10. But I want to give you a background just to remember. Now, Paul's first letter to Corinth was a pretty strong letter. He dealt with many issues in the church, including a gross immorality that was there. There were divisions, there was infighting, there was allegiances to different personalities. And Paul, in that first letter, minced no words of dealing with sin. Now, he apparently had received many attacks as a result of the power of that word. And you and I might find it distressing to think that this great apostle and preacher of the early church would find it necessary to defend his calling and manner of ministry among believers. But I would encourage you with this thought: such has been the case with God's people from the beginning. There has always been false teachers and fake believers in the midst of the assembly that you and I know as the church. Now, 2 Corinthians chapter 10 is Paul's answer to several slanders that have been brought against him. For instance, in 2 Corinthians 10 and verse 10, there were some that accused Paul of almost mocking him of writing weighty and powerful letter, but went on to criticize his appearance, saying he was weak and his speech was contemptible. Now, those dispersions were probably about his height, being small in stature, and also a criticism of his preaching. Apparently his preaching, this great apostle, was not that compelling. In fact, it's interesting, in Acts chapter 20 and verse 19, we read about a young man who actually fell asleep during what is described as Paul was long preaching. This man fell out of a window while Paul was preaching, and he literally fell to his death. Now, God blessed him, and Paul was able to raise the man back up to life. I find as I read this, a sense of humor, having been preaching for 41 years now, that I may have had many fall asleep during my preaching. As far as I know, no one has ever fallen to their death. And so I take joy in that. Now let me finish this up today. Paul's desire was to be a shepherd. In chapter 10 and verse 1, he says, with the meekness and gentleness of Christ. However, he assured his adversaries, his enemies, those that have slandered him and mocked him, that he was capable and willing to address them with boldness in person when he comes. Now, nevertheless, the apostle had no interest in comparing himself with others. Chapter 10, verse 12, and he refused to boast or magnify his accomplishments beyond that which God had blessed him. Now, you and I know false teachers like fake false politicians, they tend to fake their credentials. They take credit for accomplishments that belong to others. Paul's passion, however, was not who was going to get the credit, but it was to preach the gospel where no man had gone. Chapter 10, verses 16 and 17. Paul's overriding desire was to glory not in himself, but that his life and ministry would be to the glory of God. You know, my friend, as I close, there is no call in our office that is higher than that of serving Jesus Christ. I would encourage you, whether as a pastor, as a lay leader, or a lay teacher, don't give in to temptation of falsifying your resume, faking your accomplishments, and pursuing man's applause. Serve the Lord faithfully and with passion, that one day you may be commended before Him. God bless you. I hope that I'll join you tomorrow as we continue our chronological study of the Scriptures and we turn to the book of Romans chapters 1, 2, and 3 tomorrow. I hope to see you tomorrow. God bless. Bye-bye.